Millionaire mocked, "Girl, you can't dance." But what happened next shocked everyone. What would you do if the person with the most power in the room mocked you in front of everyone? Would you shrink in silence or rise and show them who you really are? I've told countless stories of wealth, arrogance, and redemption, and today's tale will leave you questioning everything about pride, prejudice, and the power of courage. Stay with me, because by the end of this story, you'll see how a cruel challenge turned into a heartwarming transformation that no one in the ballroom, not even the billionaire himself, could have imagined. The Whitmore estate was buzzing that evening. Chandeliers glistened, violins whispered across the grand hall, and every guest carried themselves as though they were part of some grand painting. At the very center of it all sat Ronald Whitmore, the untouchable billionaire. Known for his ruthless business sense and biting tongue, Ronald had built an empire on wealth, control, and intimidation. People laughed at his jokes even when they weren't funny, nodded at his opinions even when they stung. But what he said next silenced the room. A girl had wandered into the ballroom, Anna, dressed in a simple hand-me-down dress, eyes full of quiet determination. She didn't belong here, not by wealth, not by status, and Ronald made sure to point that out. With a smirk that cut through the chatter, he declared, "If you can dance this waltz, I'll adopt you." At first, the crowd chuckled. They thought it was one of his cruel jokes, the kind he often used to embarrass people. But there was something about Anna's posture, the way she held his gaze without flinching, that shifted the atmosphere. This wasn't going to be a game. Anna could feel the weight of the room pressing down on her. Eyes judged her, whispers echoed, "She doesn't belong here. What is she doing here?" But Anna didn't look away. Instead, she spoke, her voice calm, steady, yet filled with fire. "If I dance and I succeed, you'll keep your word?" she asked. Ronald leaned back, amused. "Do you really think you can waltz with the finest? This is no playground jig. This is a dance of grace, of refinement, qualities you lack." Gasps rippled across the ballroom. His words weren't just an insult. They were an attack on her very being. But Anna's lips curled into the faintest smile. "Then I'll learn tonight, because I'm not afraid of failing in front of people who've already judged me." For the first time, Ronald hesitated. She was supposed to shrink. She was supposed to run. But instead, she stood taller. That's when a young man named Ethan, Ronald's godson, stepped forward. He had watched the exchange in silence, but now something inside him stirred. With a bow, he extended his hand toward Anna. "May I have this dance?" The orchestra hesitated, then resumed with trembling strings. The crowd formed a circle around the unlikely pair, Ethan in his tailored suit, Anna in her faded dress. At first, their steps were awkward. Anna stumbled, nearly tripping over her own shoes, and the whispers returned. Ronald chuckled darkly, certain she'd embarrass herself. But Ethan leaned close and whispered, "Don't listen to them. Just follow me, one step at a time." Anna inhaled deeply, matching his rhythm. Her feet began to find the beat, her body relaxing into the flow. And suddenly, what had been mockery turned into something entirely different. The ballroom grew quiet. Anna moved with surprising grace, each turn more confident than the last. The music swelled, and with it, so did the courage in her heart. She wasn't just surviving the dance, she was owning it. When the final note echoed, the crowd erupted. Guests clapped, some even cheered, while Ronald's smirk faltered into disbelief. Anna curtsied with dignity, her chin high. She had turned his cruel challenge into her first victory. But little did anyone know, this was just the beginning.
The applause still echoed in Anna's ears long after the orchestra's final note faded. But as the ballroom emptied, Ronald's gaze followed her like a shadow. Later that night, in his study, he called Anna in. The room smelled of leather and oak, the fire casting long, unforgiving shadows. "You embarrassed me," Ronald said flatly, swirling a glass of brandy. No one was supposed to cheer. Anna clenched her fists. "You made a promise. You said if I danced, you'd adopt me." Ronald chuckled coldly. "I don't break my word, but let's be clear. This isn't a fairy tale. Adoption here doesn't mean warmth or affection. It means rules, expectations, standards." Anna stood tall, her eyes burning. "Then I want my radio, visits to my family, and the freedom to choose who I become." For the first time, Ronald blinked. This girl, this child, was negotiating with him like a seasoned business rival. And against his will, he admired her courage. Behind her, Samuel, the family's longtime steward, spoke quietly. "Sir, she doesn't need just money, she needs love." Ronald ignored him, but Anna had planted her first seed of defiance in the mansion's cold soil. The next morning, Anna awoke in a canopy bed so large it felt like an island. The sheets smelled of lavender, the windows opened to sprawling gardens, and for the first time in her life, she had a room of her own. But luxury came with chains. Tutors arrived at dawn, drilling her in subjects she had never studied. Maids corrected her posture, her table manners, even the way she spoke. At dinner, Ronald watched her like a hawk. His eyes scanned for mistakes, waiting for her to falter. "So, Anna," he said, slicing his steak with surgical precision, "what do you aspire to be?" Her fork trembled slightly. "A dancer," she said, barely above a whisper. Ronald scoffed. "That's not ambition, that's a hobby. In this house, excellence is mandatory." The room went silent. Anna's appetite vanished, but her determination only grew stronger. That night, she whispered to herself in the mirror, "They can take away my comfort, but they can't take away my voice." It was a vow. Weeks later, the mansion began to feel like a cage. Anna's days were a blur of lessons, etiquette drills, and judgmental stares from staff who whispered behind her back. But Ethan noticed. One afternoon, he appeared at her door with a mischievous grin and a bicycle. "Want to escape for an hour?" he asked. They pedaled through winding roads, laughter chasing them into the open fields. For the first time since the ballroom, Anna felt free. Wind in her hair, the world wide open. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. Ethan shrugged. "Because I know what it feels like to be trapped by expectations. You make me believe things can change." When they returned, Ronald was waiting at the gates, his face like stone. "Enjoy your little rebellion?" he asked, voice sharp. Anna's heart raced, but she stood tall. For the first time, yes. Ronald's jaw tightened. He wasn't used to being challenged, least of all by a girl who refused to bow. But somewhere deep down, a flicker of curiosity sparked. Could this girl really change him? The day of the community center opening arrived with golden sunlight, but Anna's heart felt heavy. Ronald had made it clear, "You will smile, you will say what we rehearsed, and you will represent this family with dignity." To him, this wasn't about her voice, it was about his reputation. Dressed in silk, Anna stood before the mirror, tugging nervously at the unfamiliar gown. Ethan appeared at the door. His expression softened when he saw her anxiety. "You don't have to let him script your life," he whispered. "Remember the dance? That was you, not him. That's the girl people want to see." But when the speeches began, Ronald's expectations weighed heavy. He spoke first, praising wealth, discipline, and the Whitmore name. When it was Anna's turn, the microphone trembled in her hand. She looked out at the crowd, faces skeptical, eyes already labeling her charity, outsider, unworthy. Her lips parted, but the rehearsed words stuck in her throat. She forced herself through the script, each word tasting like dust. When the applause came, it was polite, not heartfelt. Later, alone in the hall, she pressed her forehead to the cold glass. They didn't hear me. They only heard him. And that's when Anna's curiosity led her to the West Wing, the one place in the mansion she was told never to enter. The West Wing was silent, draped in dust and shadows. Curtains hung heavy, furniture sat untouched, and the air carried the stillness of grief. Anna pushed open a door, and inside she found a small bedroom, frozen in time. On the dresser lay a cracked music box and a photograph of a smiling young girl with curly hair. Beneath it, a name etched in silver, Elise. Anna's breath caught. Ronald's daughter. The realization hit hard. Elise was gone, taken too soon. Suddenly, Ronald's coldness, his obsession with control, made sense. This house wasn't just grand, it was haunted. Haunted by loss. When Ronald discovered Anna in the room, his face went pale, anger masking vulnerability. "You had no right to be here," he growled, but his voice cracked. Anna met his gaze. "She mattered to you, and so do I. You can't keep hiding behind cruelty. It's not strength, it's pain." For a moment, silence stretched between them. The mask slipped. Ronald's eyes glistened with something rare. Humanity. But just as quickly, the walls went back up. "Leave," he ordered. Anna left, but she carried Elise's memory with her. And deep down, Ronald knew the girl he mocked was uncovering truths he had buried for years. The night of the gala speech arrived, and the pressure was unbearable. Wealthy elites filled the hall, whispering about Anna's worthiness. To them, she was an experiment, a project. Backstage, Anna's hand shook. She wanted to run, to disappear, but Ethan slipped a folded paper into her palm. "It's a poem," he said softly. "Read it before you go out there." The words were simple, but powerful. Strength is not in gold or titles, but in love carried through scars. A voice unshaken, a step unbroken, that is where true legacy lives. Something inside Anna shifted. She took the stage, but instead of Ronald's script, she spoke her truth. I was told I didn't belong, that I couldn't dance, that I couldn't dream. But tonight I stand here because love is stronger than judgment, and courage is stronger than pride. Strength doesn't come from wealth, it comes from what you survive and how you lift others with you. The room went still. Then, slowly, applause began. Real, thunderous applause. Ronald, seated in the front row, froze. His chest tightened. For the first time in years, he wasn't the center of the room. Anna was. But victory carried a cost. As she left the stage, she overheard whispers. Charity case. Doesn't belong here. This won't last. Her triumph was real, but so was the backlash. Anna had won the crowd, but in doing so, she had also made enemies. One stormy evening, Anna wandered into the estate's greenhouse. It had once been her sanctuary, rows of orchids, vines, and bright flowers. But what she found made her stomach drop. Plants were uprooted. Tomato vines lay twisted on the ground. Orchids trampled. Soil spilled across the tiled floor like the aftermath of a battle. Someone had done this on purpose. When Ronald arrived, his jaw tightened, anger flashing in his eyes. Security swept the area, but Anna already knew what this meant. The initiative she and Ronald had begun, the one meant to bring education and growth to underprivileged girls, was under attack. That night, in a meeting with the board, their doubts became knives. She's too young to lead. This girl is a liability, not an asset. This isn't a legacy, it's chaos. For a moment, Anna thought Ronald would agree with them, but then he rose. His voice cut through the room. You're wrong. She has more courage in her little finger than most of us have in our entire bodies. She stays, not as a figurehead, as the voice of this movement. The room went silent. For the first time, Ronald defended Anna, not as a pawn, but as family. The garden project grew from the ashes of that sabotage. What others destroyed, Anna rebuilt with her own hands, and with the help of children who came to learn, laugh, and grow. Ethan gifted her a small sapling, its roots bound in burlap. He said, "A garden needs patience. So does change." Anna planted it in the center of the estate's grounds. Around it, girls gathered with soil-stained hands, planting marigolds, tulips, and beans. Each sprout became a symbol, not of wealth, but of resilience. Local journalists began to notice. Headlines spoke of "the girl who danced into a legacy" and "how one child is teaching a billionaire to care." But not everyone applauded. At elite gatherings, whispers continued. She doesn't deserve this. Ronald is being reckless. At a reception, Anna spoke anyway. Gardens teach us that growth comes from persistence, not perfection. Each root matters, each seed matters, and so does each child, no matter where she comes from. The applause was small at first, but soon hands across the room clapped together, a wave of reluctant respect. Anna wasn't just surviving Ronald's world anymore, she was reshaping it. Months later, the Elise Initiative opened its doors to the public. The once private estate now buzzed with workshops, mentorship programs, and tutoring sessions for girls who had been told they weren't enough. Anna, now older in spirit if not in years, stood before the crowd. Ethan handed her a poem, but she didn't need it this time. She had her own words. Legacy isn't measured by marble halls or fortunes. It's measured by the roots we leave behind, the lives we lift, the hope we plant, and the love we choose to give. I was mocked once, told I didn't belong, but today I know I do, and so do all of you. Her voice rang out, strong and unshaken.
Ronald, standing in the front row, felt tears sting his eyes. For years he had hidden behind wealth, behind arrogance, behind loss. But Anna had forced him to face himself, and in doing so had given him something he thought he'd lost forever: purpose. The applause shook the hall. Children ran through the garden outside, laughter echoing into the evening sky. The sapling Anna had planted now stretched taller, its leaves catching the last light of sunset. And in that moment, Ronald knew Elise's memory lived on, not through sorrow, but through hope. Anna had transformed cruelty into compassion, judgment into justice, and an arrogant millionaire into a man who finally understood love.